Hello all, welcome into this iRacing video. We are here for a tips and tricks video, part 4. It's been a while, but I wanted to make sure I accumulate some good tidbits, tips and tricks to sort of get your teeth into and learn something from. I've got around 15 things in this video that I want to show you that hopefully either you don't know or you can get more out of. So I'm going to go through them slowly and try and explain all the little things I found. First up, high-res photos. Now, this is all well and good if you have a high-res monitor. If you're running on a 4K monitor, which I can't imagine too many people are, being able to take a higher resolution photo than your monitors and iRacing settings allow is a feature that I found tucked away in iRacing under the dev settings. So let's show you an example. So I am running on a ultra-wide Samsung monitor, 2K. But if I wanted to blow out this and take a 4K resolution photo or get something much higher resolution, first of all, there's a few settings I want to show you to change. And then I'll show you how you go about actually extrapolating that photo. First things first, you're going to want to head over to your options and down to your replay. Now, this is paired with your graphics settings, but purely just for the replay. Now, there are some settings you can't change in here if your graphics settings haven't allowed it, but we'll go through those quickly. Okay, so as you can see, my graphics settings are quite low. Obviously, I use this sim for racing. I have a machine upstairs that I use for taking the high-res photos. So some things you can do to make the photos look good. Motion blur, you can set that to high. It gives you that feeling of the car movement. DOF, depth of field effect, that's really good. I'll show you how that works in a moment as well. Heat haze, FX, AA, distortion, sharpening, they're all helpful. If you have a machine that's able to run them, enable them in replay mode. But just remember, when you're out of the car, this can severely affect your FPS if you're going to be using it for racing. So this is the kind of thing that you want to write down how to take photos for and then put your settings back. Number of lights and your filter here, the PCF4 filter, you can go all the way up to 16. And then it's just a case of making sure if you want grandstands in your background or good looking sky, you want cars obviously set to high. A few settings in graphics that remain unaffected if you don't change them. How many cars that you're showing, shadow, some of the shadow settings and your shader quality. If you want to get that to as high as possible. For photos, I'd recommend Ultra. Okay, so now some more less known tips for improving photos. If we head over to the render a DX11 file. Now, I want to make this clear. Please only change this setting for taking photos. Once you've taken the photos, change it back because you're going to affect your racing. Compress texture cars, vertices, helmets, suits, all these. These are compressed down for improved FPS, less graphical rendering. But if you're looking for just take high resolution photo, set this to 0, reload iRacing. Make sure iRacing's closed, change these settings, and then load into iRacing. iRacing on exit saves these renderer files and the app INI back out each time. So changing those will help, big time. And lastly, the big thing. Now, this is how you exceed the resolution that you have access to. In the app INI, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you get to this XXX dev use only. So we're going to ignore that. There's an X height and an X width. As long as you keep these in the same aspect ratio as your monitors and the both numbers divisible by 4, this is how you can take photos higher resolution than your monitors will allow. So my monitor's already 2K and it's of 5,000 odd pixels wide. So I've done it on a multiple of 1.5. So I'm taking photos on 7680 wide, 2160 high. But if you had a 1080p monitor, you with a 16:9 aspect ratio, you could put in a 4K resolution here and it will take 4K photos. Right, so excellent. We've changed that. How do you take these photos? So let's just frame a shot quickly. Let's get us into the corner. That'll do. Let's lower the camera a bit for a bit of dramatic. Let's pull back a bit and bring the FOV in. Change to static. The picture up a bit. Rotation down a bit. And let's get this in the center. It's looking pretty good. Okay, so now we've framed a photo we want to take. How do we exceed our resolution? If you take a screenshot right now, it would be native. If you used print screen, it would be native. So there's a hidden button in iRacing. Control, Shift, print screen. Control, Shift, print screen. Pops up this, save replay. But all it's actually going to be doing is taking a screenshot. So I'm going to head over to the screenshots folder in iRacing. And let's just call this IMSA. Save. And then what it's going to do, if the screen starts to look weird, is start to mosaic my screen into pieces and take higher zoomed in photos. Let's let that process. Now I will show you if that Control Shift print screen doesn't work. I'll show you where in iRacing might be disabled that you need to change to allow this. So let's just let that photo render. But remember, the quality of your photo will depend on not just using this feature, but your angle, your depth of field. I'll show you a few tips and tricks right now on how you can improve the photos. But remember, I use this machine for purely racing. All right, so that photo's done. So if we head over to Documents, iRacing, screenshots, we have this imsa.tga file. So unfortunately, it is a TGA file. You're going to need a Photoshop or GIMP or any really basic photo viewer to then pull out the JPEG or PNG, whatever you're after. Just open up, but GIMP's open source and free. So if we zoom this out so you can actually see it, because obviously my screen's quite big, we can see at the top here the resolution of the photo. Let me bring that in. Resolution of the photo is 7680 by 2160. So we can zoom in pretty far with extreme quality. So a few tricks about how to improve the look of the photo in the camera. I'm pretty sure you saw me pull back and bring in the FOV. That can definitely add a lot of drama. And this technique of pulling back and then manipulating the FOV to get closer, if you have that depth of field effect that I showed you here, you have depth of field effect on, what you can actually do is manipulate the aperture, the amount of light in the photo to a lower f-stop, and that would actually add a natural bokeh to the background, and it gives that sense of depth between what's at the front of the frame and what's at the rear. So that's a good trick. Also, you can change the focus level. Once again, once you've got the depth of field effect on, you can change where the camera's focusing. Another thing you can do with, I think I mentioned this, is the motion blur. That will help show that these cars are moving and not just static. And apart from that, the rest of the sharpening effects, it's something to play with. Taking a good photo is obviously in the eye of the beholder. But I just wanted to really show you a quick tip on how to expand the quality of your photos that you take. Okay, up next, let's look at replay settings for, I get this a lot. I get people ask me, how do you cycle through the incidents in a race? So let's just pull back a bit on the camera. Let's let this play. Okay, if you press Control 3, it will cycle to the next incident that happened in the race from anybody. That's a bit of a punt. Control 3 again, we cycle to the next. Control 3 again. Control 1 goes to the previous one. So let's try and find one that's not actually LMP related. Here we go. First GT3 it looks like. That was just an off track. So it'll show off tracks, incidents, anything that cause an incident point in the race. So that's Control 3 for the next. Control 1 for previous, but if you're looking to map the control, you can head into Controls. Replay settings, next incident, previous incident. There you go. So you can map those quite easily yourself. Okay, next up is Shift Horizon. Now, I want to mention this because I did mention it in my field of view video, but obviously most people went to the field of view video and the calculator thing to focus on field of view, not Shift Horizon. Now, this is something that I've recently experienced, so I wanted to make sure I shared it with all of you, but the aim, I say the aim is to get to a shift horizon of 0. What that means is that your eye line is center of your monitor that you're using. What it basic shift horizon is doing is changing the pitch angle from your relation to the car to give you an accurate field of view, an accurate position within the car for vision. So most people are higher than their monitors relative to the eye to the center of the screen. Usually they're further up. And this is something that you would want to balance. Now, Shift Horizon can fix it. Let me change it so you can see what I'm talking about. So if we change the Shift Horizon to -16, no, I think it's positive we want to go. That's usually so that's 11. Now you can see, we can see more of the wheel. We are looking down in the car. Whereas if we go positive shift, the opposite way with Shift Horizon, we are now looking up in the car. Now, you may think 0 is the answer regardless, and it is once you get yourself, your eye line, where you're sat in your car, center to your monitor. And I think it's a good pursuit to have. I mean, I always talk about getting your monitors closer, getting an accurate field of view, but trust me, I've been racing a long time and I've only recently got to Shift Horizon 0 and no looking back. I absolutely love it. So I just wanted to make sure that you're pursuing the same goal. Okay, next up, a common problem I see people having is this wheel range. Now, iRacing does a one-to-one relationship between your rim wheel-based software and the car you're using. But the only way that one-to-one relationship works is if your wheel range matches your software. So let's head into SimiCube. And you can see I have my wheel range at 900. My iRacing at 900. Now, if I had my wheel range set at 372 and my SimiCube set to 372, it would work perfectly and I wouldn't notice a thing. Because of that one-to-one relationship, having the numbers deviate from each other, where the problem lies, where you get this inaccuracy, where you get rotation that doesn't match rotation in the car. So, yeah, other sims are different, but iRacing always pairs the one-to-one relationship with the car you're using, but just make sure your software matches your iRacing settings. All right, bear with me. I'm going to jump change sessions and then we'll look at some more tips. Okay, so for a couple more tips, I've just changed session. When it comes to setup advice and people looking to tweak the car or understand how the lockup lights work or the ABS or various other confusing subjects about a car, when you get the in-dash lights or you want to understand something, one thing that's often overlooked that I see people not taking advantage of, if you head into Garage, head down to the notes section, you get sometimes detailed descriptions, depends on the car, the setup, VRS, PDS, Craigs. They sometimes also leave notes on exactly how it's done. But it lets you understand lockup lights, front and rear, different settings, maybe different gear ratios, how they affect the car. Sometimes there's notes on rear traction, front traction, preventing locking up, higher top speeds, downforce, everything. So make sure when you're working with the car setup, you head over to the garage notes. It's just a small tip, but I see some people missing out on it. It can be quite useful. Another thing I stumbled across I would say about a month ago now, that I wasn't actually aware was in iRacing, and I wish I knew back in the 24 hour. I'm just going to head out. Just going to pull out a pit straight. That's all we're going to do. I wish I'd known about this in my long tyre tests. When I was trying to do triple stints at Le Mans, it was taking a long time. What you can do is... Whoa. Pause the sim. Yeah. So the pause button or end on your keyboard, I had to press FN. Pauses the sim. Now, this only works in local test sessions, and it can, I will leave off the footnote, it can mess with the VRS telemetry logger. So make sure once you come back from going to get some food and you're coming back to resume, just restart the VRS telemetry logger and all should be fine. You press the same button to resume. Pause. So when you're on the straight at Le Mans, pause it, go do your thing, come back, and then you can continue your tyre analysis, your fuel analysis without losing that precious data. Because if you pull the car over to the side of the road, you're going to cool the temperature, cool the tyres, you're going to change, the track will be still evolving, lots will still be happening while you're parked on track. So this pause feature, I I I don't know how I missed it, but it's useful for running long stint information. Okay, another thing. This is just a small thing. I've touched on this subject quite a lot. Let's get out the car. Just a few footnotes, really, about how to save FPS. So let's just run a few obvious ones that I see lots of people doing that can hopefully help. When you're working with shadows, make sure this setting here doesn't have shadow maps on everything. Make sure you maximum shadow maps on track and cars. I find the performance is a lot better. Here with particles, I find medium particles with these unticked. You may not notice a lot, but when someone locks up in front of you, or you're do it, like for example, I had this problem when someone was doing donuts at the end of the race, and I noticed my frames were tanking. So I went back into the replay, played it back, and I saw my FPS tanking even in replay mode. Changed the particle settings in replay as well, and I maintained maximum frames while the donuts were being done. All right, another one. Now, this is an old problem that now has a different solution. Back in the day, when we wanted to limit our FPS draw in a busy race, we would come into here and change max cars. We would lower it, say 20, to help with FPS. Nowadays, you can put that back up to the full fat, say 63, and use the draw calls. The top one being what your main cameras see, this one being what you see through the pits. Then the two numbers here are your main mirrors and I think it's your virtual mirrors. But let me just double check. Like the other cameras. So I use 20, 40, 40, 20, and 46. I find these settings really good for keeping my FPS in check. Shader quality, ultra and high. I don't find ultra a big step up. So I use high, and that helps. Motion blur off helps me. And another big winner, headlights to low detail, especially for night races. I find the low detail lights to still be perfectly acceptable, but I don't have all of the FPS drops. So that was just a couple. There's obviously a lot that goes into maximizing your FPS, but they help me the most. So I figured they're worth mentioning. Okay, on to the next. Okay, this next tip is one of my most favorite tips, and the tip I least want to give away, but it's something I use all the time. So we've jumped in an official session, as you can see. It's a pretty busy session looking on the relative. We have, let's see how many cars actively on track. Quite a few. But if you look at this group section in the top left, click on it, change group. Let's say you want to change to group 5. Okay, and now when I hit practice, we are the only person on track. Nobody else is on track. My relative, let me just bring that into vision. My relative there, completely empty, just me on track, nobody else. But we still have, bear with me, sorry, we still have an active standings, so we can still compare our times. We can still run laps, but we're running around on our own in an official session. So the temps will still be the exact same. Everything's the exact same, but we don't have to worry about other cars. We can keep an eye on our lap times, but it gives you a chance, especially for quali practice. Now, you shouldn't always just hide away in a different group, because it's good for racecraft practice and, you know, driving around other drivers at the track to learn stuff. But when you want to get ready for qualifying practice, it's a serious game changer, because you're now in the conditions you're exactly testing. You jump in on your own and you go put a lap in, and it's really, really helpful. Yeah, I can't undersell how important it is. So yeah, right, on to the last tips into the UI, and then we'll wrap this up. Okay, my last couple of tips are within the iRacing UI, so I want to show you all those. First one, it's a little hidden away, but it gives you the ability to paint all of your cars with, say, 3 or base colors, to give you every car you own a quick paint job. Obviously, I use trading paints and get all my own liveries designed, but I just wanted to show you this. So let's find a car that's not painted. As you can see, I have lots of orange cars. Okay, the Lamborghini here. Looks like it hasn't been done. Oh, I might as well jump to the other tip I was saving for tip 2, the car model system. So this has been introduced at the start of this season. So when you click on a car, you can head over to the car model. Now, this will actually use your local livery. So if you jumped into a session with a trading paint that you got custom designed, when you come back out, you'll be able to view the paint in here. You can roll the mouse to zoom in. You can click and hold to pan around. It's obviously very high quality for photos. You can get a really good look at your livery without having to load into a session. Yeah, I use this, and it's a really good place for getting, I say, high-res photos. Good shadowing. Really good. Right. Kind of a detour, but let's head over to the painting. So as you can see, it has picked up my 3 colors. So let's just say we want a black, we want our orange, and let's just pick somewhere like a medium gray for now. Let's pick a style. So let's go with this style. It looks okay. Now what we want to do is hit this drop down, the apply button to the top one, apply to all cars. Now let's go see if I've just ruined every car I own or if it's worked out all right. This is where you change your car number, by the way, and you can also select your type of wheels. So let's choose matte black. So that's the best thing to pick. Head back out. Let's head over to the cars. And as you can see, cars that I've not drove before now have a paint job that we just assigned using those 3 base colors. So as I say, it's not the best thing to do, but when you own a lot of cars, it can be a nice way to, there you go, get up and running just with a quick delivery. All right, so you can see that's pulled. That shows my example I mentioned a moment ago. If you have a paint assigned, damn, that looks good. If you have a paint assigned, you can utilize it and look from here. So, but as you can see, as far as the iRacing paint for that car, we did end up changing it. As you can see, it's using the same type of design for every car. So that's a good one. Okay, lastly, my last tip is something else quite new in iRacing. So let's head to IMSA. Let's go to schedule. Next week's track is going to be Monza. What you can do, click this button here, drive now, create hosted session. What this does, it fills out the details for creating a hosted session a week or 2 ahead of time with all the cars, their limits, the track choice. It generates the weather, gets you a lot closer to the settings you would need to host in a session that mirrors the official session from iRacing. So then you just fire up the hosted session. Other people can jump in. You can fill out the password. It even fills out the description of the event. Yeah, I think it's a worthy addition. I wish they took it a little further with temps, but I can understand why they're keeping some stuff close to their chest. But it's really good, really helpful. It's not perfect, but it's a damn sight better than starting from scratch and making mistakes with the cars or the track choice, things like that. Okay, I've kept you long enough. I hope some of those tips helped. I will try and work on a tips and tricks v5, but it's getting hard to find things that you guys might not know. So there's a full video series. This is part 4. There's been parts 1, 2, and 3. Apologies for taking so long to get round to the 4th, but I love racing too much. But I'm going to be back with more. Thank you ever so much, everyone, for all the support you've given me, for the likes, the comments, the donations, the Patreons, everything with it. It's changed my life. So everyone, thank you very much. If you like the video, mash the like button, sub if you want to see my next video, bell notification to know when the next video drops. But other than that, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.